Boreas. It was time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game changer. Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced. Bernardo knew that using it could go catastrophically wrong, but he was sure he could figure out how to use it safely. Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert. The Iblis Stone was hidden there. It was a dangerous artifact. It could corrupt its user into a bloodthirsty monster. Maybe he could find a way to use it, to take its power without surrendering to its wickedness. And also, his old friend Lapino needed rescuing. Of course, Bernardo had a pretty strong suspicion that Lapino had betrayed the rebellion, and he had a gut feeling that he needed to use that to his advantage. The island was windswept. Every child could sing verses about the Sky Ripper, but ancient codices held hints of other things. A stone that ate souls, a ruby that drank blood, a jewel only a righteous man could give away. Were all these things the Iblis Stone? Long hidden in a buried temple? Another ancient item that was only resurfacing now? Drawn up from the deeps by the Emperor's horrific rituals? Cawing in frustration. They were still searching for a way in. Good. Then he hadn't come too late. You couldn't hack this kind of firewall. You had to warm it up to you. There had to be some way to use the Iblis Stone. It was old, wasn't it? People are so much cleverer now. And Bernardo was pretty sure he was cleverer than most people. The Ravens, at least, could not get past this point. Obviously, the temple builders knew how to deal with tomb raiders. Bernardo had always wanted a flying carpet. This was more like a flying tabletop, but it would do. It was a stone of the purest blackness. It reflected no light, like a void made solid. Nervous, he picked it up. I can make you mighty. Who said that? Give me blood. It was the stone. Eager, thirsty. Kill the Emperor's daughter. That seemed tempting and terribly wrong. Zenobia was the Emperor's greatest general and a potent witch. But they had been close once, and he had a sneaking suspicion the gem would try to control him. Why not capture the core of Skyripper instead? It was the eye of a lost god torn out by the transcendent Emperor to power his greatest weapon. It's the core, said the stone anxiously. But even though Bernardo knew how evil the gem was, he had a clever plan for dealing with it. Why was he listening to a talking rock? Ah, but the rock had a point. If the As he placed the impossibly black crystal in his gauntlet, Bernardo had a sudden vision. Charred fields covered in dead ravens below a black sun. Was it the time of the lost gods before the transcendent Emperor? Was it the future? Feed souls, it whispered. Take the power. He could feel the stone's hunger for souls, its thirst for blood. All right, I get it. This was going to be interesting. Thought Bernardo. The ravens on Zenobia's island were no match for Bernardo. They screamed as the stones sucked out their souls, and with each death, he felt stronger. Take the power, the stone told him. Couldn't do worse with Zenobia than he'd done with the core, could he? He didn't even need to see the gobblers this time. He could smell seared flesh. And like every other predator, they only eat their meat cooked. Preferably alive. Zenobia. Finally, Bernardo caught up to her. He had never seen her scared before. At school, she'd been the determined, brave one. Now her eyes were... Please. No, said Zenobia. Not that way. Oh, they had been so close once. Could he really feed her soul to his demonic gem? But if he spared her, he would not get the full power of the stone. Oh, how could he be the hero he wanted to be? Bernardo... Bernardo felt a little sick. Ever since Zenobia had taken the stone from him, he'd felt an ache that wouldn't go away. He missed it. He wanted it back. He needed it back. Why hadn't he killed her when he had the chance? She was the enemy. He hadn't even seen her in 14 years. Why had he hesitated? You're a sucker for an empowered woman. Bernardo kicked himself. Don't make that mistake again. Zenobia thought the stone was evil. Well, she... And while he was trying to recover the stone Zenobia had taken from him, the Imperial fleet was tightening its grip. He might fail to save the rebellion, and it would all be her fault. Bernardo felt a burst of outrage. Not only had she stolen his gem, she'd also stolen his scientists. Sure, they were neutral, but they had helped him discover what the Emperor was up to. They were supposed to be helping me, Bernardo thought. So unfair. Everybody knew you should trust the Raven further into the thrower. But did vertical drops count? The scientists' toes were pointing arcane instruments at the stone and looking at it through prisms and reflections. Mine, said Bernardo as he took back the stone. We need it for science, croaked the toads. So he killed them. He felt better immediately. Smarter, too. I thought you'd never come for me, whispered the stone. Then, a far-speaker toad croaked in something like Zenobia's voice.
Bernardo, leave the stone with the toads. It will swallow your soul. You will kill everyone you love.
That did seem vaguely familiar. But Bernardo had an army to lead, an empire to bring down. Whispered the stone. It was right. Wasn't Zenobia the Emperor's greatest general? Wasn't Bernardo fighting for the rebellion? Of course she wouldn't want him to have it. at the stone. You know what? I would, thought Bernardo. Or maybe he said it out loud. He would go see the council and lead their armies to victory. All he had to do was call them on the far speaker. Ah, damn. Well, wouldn't they be surprised anyway? Ah, the ruins. Bernardo had come there as a kid when it was still the fabulous city of Ubar, before the Emperor's ravens had come to pillage ancient books from its library and destroyed it. Now the rebel council lay hidden underneath the ruins. And between here and there, all these ravens to kill. They deserved it for what they'd done to the city. And the faster he can kill them, the more of a rush they gave. Funny about librarians. People thought of them as fussy clerks who shushed them for talking. But the librarians thought of their books as sacred, and themselves as priests in a temple of knowledge. Who knew they were willing to die to protect it? Tried to be nice to Zenobia, not killing her and all. And what did she do? She stole the gem from him and made him kill all those scientists. Next time she'd see. Whispered the stone. Ravens? Bernardo knew how the stone felt. Each raven he killed gave him a little jolt of pleasure. But he could only kill them so fast, and the pleasure wore off too quickly. Hopefully soon he would face a more powerful adversary. Yes, whispered the stone. The more power your enemies, the more power I give you. I will make you emperor. But not with a bunch of mangy ravens. Good to practice your moves, thought Bernardo. Keeps you limber. As he reached the secret entrance, he was shocked to see Zenobia talking with the council. She bore a white flag. The council has betrayed you, whispered the stone. Kill them. What are you doing here, love? Bernardo demanded. Come for the bran muffins?
She's worried about you,
croaked the council speaker.
We all are.
You're not yourself, Zenobia said. Before they could get into the rest of the intervention, he leapt at her. Unfortunately, the council speaker blocked him, so he slew her and the other council members. I'm not giving up, cried Zenobia as she darted off into the ruins. I think I just killed the entire rebel council, said Bernardo.
See how much power they've given you.
But they were on my side, weren't they?
No one is on your side, except for me.
He set sail for the fleet. There, at least, there would be enemies to kill. Unless that was the Iblis Stone talking. He could never be sure. Anyway, who needed other rebels here? They'd only get in the way. A true hero fights alone after he's got all his friends killed. The portal was heavily guarded. Let's go someplace they really didn't want it to go. This was much easier than free climbing. The world was so beautiful. Everything was glowing, breathing, alive. Except, okay, the ravens. The wind was alive, like a million fingers caressing his hair. He'd never felt so powerful. He never felt so sexy. Somewhere down the path would be the Emperor. Bernardo would slay him, most powerful man in Erda. And the Iblis Stone would give Bernardo all that power. And he would be Emperor. And then he would set everyone free. At last, he was face to face with Zenobia. She was still unarmed. No fire crackled from her claws. Excellent. Kill her, whispered the stone. He raised his sword for the killing blow. Is this what you really want? She asked. Or is it what the stone wants? Think of the power, insisted the stone. I don't want to kill you, he told Zenobia, his arm still raised. I know, but he could not put the sword down. It wants blood, he told her. I know. Oh, help me, he said. She stabbed herself. Take my blood, she said. You mustn't, cried the Iblis Stone. Oh no! Why did you... He ran to embrace her, and she plunged her bloody dagger into his heart. Why? He said. We'll be together in the halls of the Valiant. She said, "I love you." He said, "Thank you." And the Iblis Stone screamed. And then it began to glow. It burst into flames. It burned like an ember. And then it was ash that blew away in the wind. And Zenobia and Bernardo died in each other's arms.